Hey everybody, check out this old beast. That's right, what you're looking at here is a Stihl model 051 AV. I've been hanging on to this saw for a few months, just doing a little bit of cleaning up on it. I still have a long way to go on that. I've been checking out the saw and trying to figure out what all is wrong with it. There are quite a few parts missing. It's missing the ignition coil, the choke lever, the choke linkage. I've been slowly saving up and ordering the parts I need. I've got the choke lever and linkage on the way. The starter was not engaging. I'll show you why in a second. I've already torn down this saw pretty much to just the bare motor, and I've checked to make sure that the compression is good, and it is. It has great compression. I've not done a pressure test on this yet. It might need crank seals. I'm sure it's going to need a carburetor rebuild and fuel lines and that sort of thing. But compression is good. Piston is not scored at all. I think the reason whoever had this saw when it quit running stopped using it is because the starter stopped engaging, and I'll show you why I think that happened. If you look at this, this is the original starter cup for this saw, and if you look in there, you see that it's been rubbed smooth. I think the starter pawls were somehow not releasing all the way, and they were dragging, and that stripped this cup out, which is, you can see it's ribbed so that the starter pawls can engage with it. I've already replaced this cup with a new one, but it still wasn't engaging because the starter pawls themselves were worn down from dragging. So I found a new starter pawl on eBay. I hope this will fix the problem. This is not an OEM Stihl part. This is wherever it says, I think it says Raisman, made in Brazil. This was about 12 bucks, I think, on eBay. So what we're going to do in this video is replace this in the saw and see if we can get the starter engaging. Now, this will be a long, slow project, and it'll probably be several videos before we actually see this saw run, because I've just got to save up and slowly collect the parts I need until we can actually see if it's got some life in it. But I'm pretty confident that once I replace everything that's missing and get the starter fixed, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a runner. Now, I'm probably also going to have to replace some of the anti-vibration mounts on this thing, and I still need to do some cleaning on that handle. I don't know if you can see that, if my camera will focus, but there's a crack in that bottom foot pad piece of the handle. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about that yet. I might try to redneck engineer a temporary fix, and until I can find one in better shape online somewhere to replace it with. So to start with, we've got, I think it's 4mm Allen head screws. We're going to take this starter cover / gas tank assembly off. There you can see the new starter cup. Now, even this new cup doesn't seem to have very pronounced ridges in it. I don't know if it's going to work or not with this Chinese and Brazilian aftermarket stuff, but we're going to give it a try and see. Okay, here in the starter housing you've got a little C-clip with a washer, so just be careful this doesn't go flying across the room anywhere. Carefully slide that out. Now you see there is a spring behind that. Take the spring off, and there's another little washer on that. Don't lose that. You can see these do look pretty worn. Leave that on there for a second until I get the other one out of the package, so I'll make sure it goes back on in the right orientation. Now the part that can be a little tricky. Hold the washer down against the pressure from the spring and try to slide your C-clip back on there. Well, that went pretty easy. Okay, they seem to be coming out like they're supposed to. So let's put this back on the saw and see if it'll actually engage and turn over. I'm going to bolt this cover all the way down before I try to pull the rope, just to make sure it doesn't try to jump up out of the starter cup when I pull on it. Okay, well, I hate to make a video where I don't successfully fix something, but this is just to show you the reality of working on these old things. Sometimes you think you've got everything you need to fix a particular thing, and then you find out something else is wrong. I put the new starter pawls in along with the new starter cup, pulled on it, and they still weren't engaging. And looking around on the internet, there really isn't any information on these starters, except there was one video that I found on YouTube where a guy gave me a little clue as to what was going on. You've got these two things right here. These are friction washers. Okay, one goes underneath the starter pawl and one goes on top of it. I didn't realize what these were at first. I thought they were just some kind of spacer, but these are actually friction washers, and the purpose of this spring is to press down on the sandwich you make with these friction washers here. That spring squeezes everything together, and it puts pressure on the middle part of the starter pawl mechanism, and that lets it drag, and the pawls slide out like this when you pull the rope. So I was overlooking these friction washers, so I'm going to have to replace these. Now, just as an experiment to see if that could have been the problem, I took some thin gasket material and I made little spacers to go behind the friction washers to kind of represent how thick I thought they used to be. And while that didn't perfectly fix the thing, it did give it enough tension to where it would somewhat engage the starter. So I'm going to hunt for some new friction washers for this thing and put those in. I'll do another video on that if everything works out alright. But hopefully this video has been helpful to somebody in some way, since there really isn't that much information online about these old saws. And while there are plenty of YouTubers now out there doing videos on the older saws, you know, they're not always touching on the topics that you need information on. And that's really what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to fill in some of the gaps and you know, put more information out there about these things, and hopefully somebody can you know, gain a little bit from my videos. I'll try it again when I get the new friction washers, but I'm also kind of, this new aftermarket starter cup is a little bit suspicious to me. I mean, it's got little stamped ridges in there, but I just don't see how those could be, you know, pronounced enough for the pawls to really get a good grip on it. I mean, I tried it a while ago with my little add-on washers to give a little more tension in there. It would slip and then catch. You had to kind of snatch on the rope a good bit to get it to actually catch and engage. So I may actually look out for an OEM Stihl starter cup that's in good shape, because this original one definitely isn't in good shape. You see how much it's shaved down. I mean, that's smooth in there. There is no more pronounced ridge in that. But you know, looking at this original one, it doesn't look like the ridges in that one were really any more pronounced than they are in this one. So I don't know, that's kind of a weird starter setup, and it just seems like it would slip even if it is working properly. But we'll see what's going on there. Now I'm going to show you the bag the new starter cup came in. I got this on eBay. See, it says for 050, 051, and 075, and it came with this extra little single plastic pawl, which doesn't appear to fit on this particular one. I guess that just goes on a later model. I have seen later model Stihls that have this one single plastic engagement pawl, so I guess that's what that's for. The other video I watched where I got the clue as to what was going on here, that guy had the same starter setup as this, and it didn't have that little plastic piece, so I'm guessing that's just for a later model. Well, I guess that's all for this video. We'll get back to it as soon as I get more parts, and like I said, this is going to be kind of a long series of videos. I'll just work on this and make videos, you know, as I get the time and the money to buy parts, and hopefully we'll get this old beast up and running.